What's going on? Let's talk about Karen Whitsett. She is a black woman. She is currently a Michigan state representative here in our legislation here in Michigan. And she recently, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, she said that she won't be seeking re-election. She'll be walking away from the Democratic Party, right? And although the story is a little older, let's talk about that because it's on topic for what I want to talk about, vlog about today. So let's get into it. All right. Shout out to Miss Whitsett for standing on business, as we like to say, right? Like I said, she's a state representative here in the beautiful state of Michigan. And she recently announced that she wouldn't be seeking re-election. Now, Miss Whitsett is actually well liked. She's well liked here in Michigan. She's a shoo-in to be re-elected for sure. But she has come forward and said that she can no longer support the Democratic Party because it doesn't line up with her Christian faith, right? And so I just want to send a special, heartfelt shout out to Miss Whitsett for standing on business, because I know that, for one, to walk away from your position, that in itself is commendable, but also at the same time, to take a stance against the Democratic Party as a black person, right? A black woman at that. That is the true definition of courage and bravery, right? We know that you can't be black and go against the Democratic Party, right? The pro-blacks within the black community, oh, they will come for you. They'll call you all kind of names and sellouts and everything. You know, they want you to be Democrat, be black, and be Democrat, and you can't think for yourselves, right? And it's a tragedy. And I always said nobody oppresses black people harder or worse than other black people, right? Despite all the facts, despite all the stats, everything, you can lay it all out on the line about how the Democratic Party does more harm than good for the black community. And still, the majority of the black population will fight you tooth and nail to stay and remain supporting a Democratic Party that does not support the black community. It's a mind-boggling thing to see, right? But so when Karen Whitsett, when she came out publicly too, and said that because of her Christian faith and belief, that she can no longer support the Democratic Party, and she can't seek re-election as a state representative, especially as a Democrat. Now, I would love to see her run as a Republican. I think that she would do excellent for sure. She puts her Christian faith and values before her desire to have power and money and influence in government, okay, as a politician. And so what she said was a vote had came here in Michigan, which I just I revisited this bit of news before I made this vlog. And yeah, here in Michigan we have abortion all the way up until the 9th month, and she said that a lot of people don't even realize that passed. It was like one of those late in the wee hours type of motion that went through under the radar, right? But here in Michigan, we have a late term up to the 9th month abortion. And she said for her, that was pretty much the beginning of the end. And then when a bill came up, that our governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who I pray will soon not be our governor, okay? She proposed a bill of Medicaid, right, of the government paying for these abortions up to the 9th month. And for Ms. Whitmer, she said that she said that that was the final straw for her. You know, she couldn't. Witt said, my bad, Miss Karen Witt said. I get it wrong. I had to write it down because you know I'm getting older. So Miss Karen Witt said, thank you. She said when that bill came before her and she was the deciding vote for it and she voted against it, she went against her own party for the Medicaid supporting these late-term abortions. Okay, so shout out to her for that, making that bold decision and standing on business. And you know, I just want to talk about that because, you know, for me as a Christian, that's my angst with the Democratic Party. I'm not a Republican. I mean, we only really have two parties to choose from. You know, if you want to vote, or you know, if the Republicans, if their whole policy, if they weren't a conservative party for the most part, I wouldn't vote for them, right? I just wouldn't vote. You know, there's no way that I could come into an agreement with policies that go against the very word of God. I just, in good conscience, can't do it. You know, and as a believer, as a Christian, who I am, you know, I love the Lord. I love the Bible, right? And so, so when I see these policies that the Democrats are all about promoting, you know, abortion, during the presidential campaign last year, that was their number one platform, right? And, you know, it's so, you know, we so quickly forget when the DNC had their, you know, their big sheding, they had a mobile abortion clinic outside. Have you ever heard of such a thing? We are out taking the lives of babies. We'll come to you. You ain't got to come to us. That is just amazing, right? And so with those policies, the homosexual agenda, the transgender agenda, the putting these sexually explicit books to children, just the whole thing about that party. As a Christian person, I cannot support or be behind. And so for her, Miss Wissett here in Michigan, for her to put her faith before her politics and to walk away from the Democratic Party as a black woman, right? Because you know the black boule in this country, they are the overseers for the Democratic Party for sure, and they do not allow black people to be free thinkers and to choose what's best for themselves and for their families, you know, without being called all type of names. You know, we all know the names. I'm not going to rehash it, you know. And I just want to say this. Back in the 60s, Malcolm X, he warned black people about blindly giving their support to a Democratic Party. They put the Democratic Party first, and the Democratic Party puts the black community last, right? And he said this back in the 60s. And he said for the black people who steady are supporting the Democratic Party, they are a traitor to their race, right? Oh, he went hard, you know. And that's one of the reasons why the powers that be took his life, you know, because he was real strong. He would have been, I could only imagine if he saw the state of things today, but had he not had his life taken so early, he would have been a strong leader within the black community that would have led millions of black people away from the Democratic Party, for sure, right? His voice still rings strong to this day. And so I get on here, you know, now that I'm back to making these videos, right? I'm trying to, you know, of course, find my lane, you know, because it's a plethora of things that I like to talk about. But when it comes to politics, especially with the up and coming midterms, this is probably going to be my main focus as far as highlighting the ungodly nature and perverse policies of the Democratic Party, especially when it comes to the black community, you know, because black people for a 80 to 90% rate have been voting Democrat for the last 65 years with no return at all. I know you'll get you'll get these blacks, they'll point at these different things. But when you look at the education, when you look at see, I come from Detroit. I come from the inner city of Detroit. I grew up in the hood. I grew up with the black experience. I know what it's like on a grassroots level for the black community, and it's in shambles, right? It is in shambles when it comes to education, when it comes to crime, when it comes to having jobs, when it comes to opportunities. It is in shambles. And when you look at all these democratic strongholds, these major cities where there are large black populations, all you see is crime, drug addiction, joblessness, poor education. It's bad, right? And they still keep voting for these Democrats who only show up every election cycle with these promises and never get any solid returns. And then when you look now, they're all about giving the illegals everything. You know, people who just come into this country yesterday, now they get everything for free, right? While black people are still having to stand there with their hand out, crying and begging for reparations. It's a tragedy, right? And a lot more and more black folks are beginning to wake up and realize and see how they have been finessed by this party for decades, you know, and are speaking out. But the pushback from those in the black community who are beholden to the Democratic Party, the D.L. Hugleys, the Roland Martins, you know, these people are what we would call overseers for that party. You know, they're quick to come out and tongue lash any black person who likes to speak the truth and try to educate and wake up other black people to this party, to stop giving your vote away to this party, you know, without getting anything in return. You know, Stephen A. Smith, he just caught a ton of backlash for recently going on the podcast and saying that he wished that all black people for one election cycle would just vote Republican, right? And I agree with that, because that would show the Democratic Party that no, you're not entitled to the black vote like you think you are. You have to come and earn our vote like everyone should, right? If you want my vote, you got, what are you gonna do for me to get my vote, right? And whereas the Democratic Party, they just been taking it for granted for decades. You know, that's why Joe Biden said to a black man, what's his name, Charmaine the Godless or whatever, right? During the podcast, he told him, well, if you don't know who to vote for, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. Think about that. He said this to a black man's face. If you don't vote for me, you're not black. See, that's the mindset of those in the Democratic Party. They just feel like they're entitled to your vote. And there are a lot of black overseers within that party who are there to whip up the black vote from people. And that's why they use fear. That's why they use the old line of racism and everything to stir up anger and fear and hatred within black people, to go run and vote for the Democrats, thinking that they're going to get something in return. It's just been the same finesse for decades, right? And so, yeah, look at this beautiful weather out here. It's like 43 degrees, the coldest day of the month. We're like 20 degrees below zero for this time of year. It's cold. It's crazy, right? And then I suppose next Monday it's supposed to be like in the 80s. So, yeah, this weather is definitely it's different, even for Michigan, right? For Michigan, we're used to weather fluctuating, but this is abnormal. Okay, so maybe this is just another sign of the times that we're living in. For this time of year, we're 20 degrees below zero, and it's been steady like that. It's not just, you know, 1 or 2 days throughout the month. We you know, and so yeah, it's something. I can't wait for it to warm up, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start back doing my vlogging on my walks. But you know, regardless, I don't care if it's cold. I need to get back to doing this, especially with the midterms coming up, and I want to be able to share my opinions, my thoughts on things, my experience. You know, I didn't just wake up yesterday morning paying attention to these things, right? I've been heavily involved in the world around me for decades now, you know. And I just want to be able to have a voice of reason that maybe one person, right? If I could just sway one person to think, become a critical thinker and stop going along with the get along, go along crowd, then I have done the Lord's work, right? And so I just want to encourage my fellow black brothers and sisters, look into it, do your homework, have an open mind, forget with any type of backlash you may get from other black people, because like I say, nobody holds black people back worse than other black people. That's just the truth. I know the Democrats want to tell you it's the white man that's keeping you down. No, it's not. It's our own people that's holding our own people down and back, for sure, right? And it's the same way the Democratic slave masters back in the slave time used other black people as overseers over their slaves. It's that same mindset that the Democratic Party used with their blacks, okay? And so like the Roland Martins and the D.L. Hughley's and the Jesse Jacksons, Al Sharpton, for where he's one of the worst, right? They're still on that 1960s, we shall overcome. Come on, man. Come on. They've been singing that for 100 years, right? And and if it keeps going the way it's going now, they'll keep singing that another 100 years from now. And we need to stop that, because never in the history of mankind have anybody, not just black people, but all people here in this country, have the opportunity, the wealth, the opportunity, the education is right here in this great country of ours, and it is on us to take advantage of it, right? Instead of seeking, trying to blame any and everything around us for our own personal failures in life. We need to stop that as a people and just get out here and work hard and get to it. There are plenty of successful black people who pulled themselves up out of the projects, out of nothing, and made something of themselves. So there is no systemic racism in this country that's holding black people back. If you aren't being successful in life, it's because of your own poor, bad decision making, okay? And I speak to myself on that, because I had all the opportunities as anyone else had in life, but I chose to run the streets and not go to school and go that path, and I spent 14 years in federal prison for the mistakes that I made, so if I could say anything, be a voice of reason, have some good words of advice for somebody to make you start thinking critically and thinking outside the box and start seeing things outside of the lens of being black, okay? That's one thing black people need to get out of, and I'm gonna wrap it up with this, right? There was an experiment done where they took a group of people and they put scars on their face and set up job interviews for them, and before they went into the job interview, they said, okay, let's touch the makeup up, and they took the scar off their face without them knowing it. So when they went into the interview, and then they did the interview, and they came back and answered some questions about how the interview went, and all of them had this bad experience because they thought that the interviewer the job was paying attention to their scar. That wasn't there. See, and that's the same way it is with black people. They already have the mind, because I'm black, and they think that all white people are racist and everything in this country is racist. They go looking for something that's not there, and we need to stop doing that as a people, because you're being tricked and you're being lied to, and especially if you call yourself a Christian and a child of God. We know God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a sound mind, okay? So get outside the color of your skin. Ain't nobody really paying attention to it like that. For real. That's all in your mind. That's all propaganda one party wants to keep telling you, so they can fear-monger you into voting for them and keeping them in power. It's a finesse game, okay? So like I said, you don't have to go start voting for the Republicans. Just hold back your vote, right? Me, I'm voting for the party that lines up with my Christian values and principles, which is, for the time being, the Republican Party is a conservative party. Amen. All right, so thank you for watching. I pray you have a blessed and wonderful day. There my buddy is down there laying on the ground. So until next time.